Too late. They start shooting in a week.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
What's up everyone, T-Soul here, Tsuki Maxi coming to you with another video. And today's topic is GameStop CEO Ryan Cohen offers to buy the retail auction giant eBay. And just the sound of that statement sounds unreal because eBay is much larger than GameStop. In a business sense, you would think that eBay would acquire GameStop, not the other way around. So for example, Amazon, which is much larger, bought Whole Foods, or Meta, which is larger, would buy Instagram. However, there's a thing called the David and Goliath acquisition, where a small company would buy a larger one. And my interpretation is that Ryan Cohen feels that eBay is not fulfilling its potential, which is crazy to think about because eBay is 5 times larger than GameStop. So something has been brewing for some time now. And if you remember, 3 months ago in February, when Charles Payne canceled his interview with Ryan Cohen because of what Ryan Cohen described as he was working on something really big, very, very, very big. Then, if you remember, Ryan Cohen changed his profile picture to the Tetris game where the final piece was dropping. And then for many years now, there have been hints of a GameStop squeeze, such as squeezing Ryan Cohen's face using a filter and Greg squeezing his glizzies. Well, most of this video will be about the first weekend of May. So let's start with May 1st, when rumors started circulating on X that Ryan Cohen was going to acquire eBay, as reported by the Wall Street Journal. Then Greg jokingly posted that Ryan Cohen is going to buy eBay with $46 billion of GameStop gift cards. And finally, to end the evening of May 1st, Dr. Michael Burry posts that GameStop and eBay make sense. And we all know at this time, Dr. Burry has increased his GameStop holdings. Then on May 3rd, which is a Sunday, Ryan Cohen drops a banger. He provides us with the link to his eBay proposal, and we find out that he wants to purchase eBay for $55.5 billion. And where have we seen that number before? Yep, Tsuki posted it all the way back in December 2024. Now, Ryan Cohen wants to use 50% cash and 50% stock to buy eBay. And even though the details don't make much sense to the average investor, everyone gets excited. Even Ryan Cohen's alt, RC, has the giant awaken. And here are some previous posts on the giant. Then, on the same day, and even a wilder post, President Trump fans the Uno wildcard, which some people interpret as he holds the cards in the Iran war. But check out those colors of the Uno wildcards and compare it to the eBay colors. It's the same colors. Now both GameStop and eBay stock starts to pump during aftermarket hours, and FOMO starts to set in. But then, in a twist of fate, Dr. Michael Burry starts to FUD, and he sells all of his GameStop shares, which causes the price of GameStop to tank. And in one day, GameStop shares drop 10%. Then Ryan Cohen goes on CNBC and doesn't do a great interview, which causes more FUD. And let's watch this interview.
It's on our website. It's half cash, half stock, but the details are on our website.
Can you help? I've read them, but can you help our audience understand them?
Yeah. Which part exactly?
Well, I think we can start with the idea that the market cap of GameStop is, call it, $11 billion. You have $9 billion on your balance sheet. Arguably, if you're providing effectively all of your stock, and then the cash that gets you to 20, you have this letter from TD. That's another 20. We're now at 40, but we're still off by, call it, 16. And the 20, as far as I understand, while it's considered a highly confident letter, meaning TD saying they're highly confident that they would provide the financing, it's not locked financing.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I hear you. I understand that. I'm just trying to understand where the rest of the money would come from.
It's half cash, half stock.
I hear you. I'm just saying that math doesn't get you to the price that you're offering.
So in this interview, Cohen tells NBC, he tells the entire panel that he wants to acquire eBay through 50% cash and 50% stock. The CNBC host really didn't understand Ryan Cohen's response because of the math. And to be honest, at the time, I didn't get it either. However, the very next day, Cohen does an interview with Fox's Charles Payne, and he did a much better explanation. And I think he always respected Charles Payne, so those interviews will be much better. So let's watch part of this interview with Charles Payne.
The details on the cash part of this.
Yeah, we have. Well, good to see you, by the way, Charles.
You too.
It's a pleasure. We have a $20 billion highly committed letter from TD that we, as well as the bank, feels very confident they can place, and we've got $9 billion of cash on our balance sheet. And in simplistic terms, the structure of the deal is very simple. So it's $125 a share. 50% is paid out in cash, which is $28 billion. And the other 50% is equity that's being rolled into eBay and GameStop.
This is the way I interpreted that Cohen interview with Charles Payne. And I'm going to try to explain this in layman's terms. So Ryan Cohen is offering $55.5 billion, right, to buy GameStop. So let's round that up to $56 billion and have a nice round number. Ryan Cohen will offer $28 billion in cash, and we know that he has $9 billion in cash on hand, and he also has this letter from TD for $20 billion. So that kind of gets you at that $28 billion, and that explains the 50% cash. Now, to explain the 50% stock part, GameStop has a valuation of $11 billion. So Ryan Cohen will need to come up with the rest of it, which is about, 17 billion. Now, to do this, he can offer more shares of GameStop, which will dilute the price of the stock. And most GameStop maxis don't like that because it drops the price. But this is probably the most logical explanation. However, we all know anything can happen. GameStop could squeeze, and that will increase the valuation of GameStop. Or, and this is the tin part, Ryan Cohen seems very connected. He has ties, and we don't know this for sure, but he has ties to President Trump based on tweets. He also has ties to Michael Burry, who has money. He also has ties to Sultan Ahmadid, who has a lot of money. And he also has ties to Roaring Kitty, who has been awfully quiet the last 2 years. So we will see what would happen. All right, that's all I got for today. Follow us on X. Join our Telegram. Always fun and interesting discussions. Have a good day.
So people don't understand how it's possible to do a transaction like this. So in easy terms, say business A is eBay. It's making $40,000. Just use round numbers for argument's sake. And business B is GameStop. If this was a stock for stock deal, we were combining both businesses, GME shareholders would own 80%. GME shareholders would own 20%. eBay would own 80%. But what we're proposing is immediate liquidity to eBay shareholders. So instead of them owning 80%, they'd be owning 60%. So they're owning 60% of 50,000 in earnings, and GameStop shareholders are owning 40% of 50,000 in earnings. Now, I'm confident that I can increase the value of eBay and their earnings by cutting costs dramatically. They're spending $2.5 billion in sales and marketing, and we can make that much more efficient. So it's going to go from business A of making 40,000, it's going to be making 80,000. So now the combined business is making 90,000. And there's different kinds of dilution. There's dilution that decreases earnings per share, and there's dilution that is accretive to earnings per share. This is a transaction that I believe is accretive to both eBay shareholders and GameStop shareholders, because we're going to increase earnings per share significantly by making the business more efficient, and GameStop is going to continue to be more profitable too. So the combined business can be making more than $90,000. And when you look at eBay's business as an example, you look at their operating expenses of $5.5 billion, over $5.6 billion on an $11 billion business. It's a business that can be run much more efficiently. There's no inventory. It's an